Water in the Pittsford Central School District, presented by
Adam,
Casey,
Sasha,
Sam,
Jacob,
Tim,
Devin,
Alfonso,
and
Luke.
the Sutherland High School Science Inquiry Class, June 2017. First, some facts about water in our world.
There is the same amount of water on Earth as there was when the Earth was formed. The water from your faucet could contain molecules that dinosaurs drank. Water is composed of two elements, hydrogen and oxygen. Water expands by 9% when it freezes. Ice is lighter than water, which is why ice floats in water. Water is part of a deeply interconnected system. What we pour on the ground ends up in our water and, through evaporation, back into the sky. We call this the water cycle. Nearly 97% of the world's water is salty or otherwise undrinkable. Another 2% of the fresh water is unlocked in ice caps and glaciers. That leaves just 1% of all fresh water readily accessible for human use and for all of humanity's needs. This includes agricultural, residential, manufacturing, community, and personal needs. Water regulates the Earth's temperature. It also regulates the temperature of the human body, carries nutrients and oxygen to cells, cushions joints, protects organs and tissues, and removes wastes. 60% of the body is water, 80% of blood is water, 75% of the human brain is water, and 75% of a living tree is water. A person can live about a month without food, but only about a week without water. The average total home water use for each person in the U.S. is about 50 gallons a day. A single load of laundry is 40 gallons. A 10-minute shower uses 50 gallons, and 4 gallons are used for brushing your teeth. The average cost for water supplied to a home in the U.S. is $2 for 1,000 gallons, which equals 5 gallons for a penny. Many parts of the U.S., water is very inexpensive. In the 20th century, the world's population has tripled and the use of water has grown sixfold. El Paso and San Antonio could run out of water in 10 to 20 years. Central Florida could run out in less than 5. It's been said we're going to run out of water before we run out of oil. The emerging worldwide water shortage is serious. In Pittsford, we don't have to worry about running out of water, but we do have to make sure our water is safe to use.
where does our water come from?
This is the Genesee River watershed. It is the area where all the water drains into the Genesee River. This is located in western New York State and includes most of Livingston and Allegheny counties, much of Monroe, Genesee, and Wyoming counties, and a portion of western Ontario County and small parts of Orleans, Steuben, and Cattaraugus counties. The water from Pittsford comes from the Genesee watershed.
There are several rivers and streams in the Genesee River watershed. Major tributaries run into 144 miles of the Genesee River in New York State. Some of these are Cassadaga Creek, Honeoye Creek, Awatka Creek, Black Creek. The water in these streams go into the Genesee River, which all ends up in Lake Ontario. Many people in our area get their water from Lake Ontario.
There are 31 significant freshwater lakes, ponds, and reservoirs, including Canisius Lake, the Mount Morris Reservoir, Hemlock Lake, and Honeoye Lake. Many people in our area, including us, get water from the Hemlock Lake. Water quality in the Genesee River watershed is generally satisfactory. Water quality concerns in the watershed are associated with urban and industrial sources in the northern part of the watershed, like Rochester. Agricultural pollution sources are from rural areas elsewhere in the watershed. In Pittsford, we get our water from both Lake Ontario and Hemlock Lake.
We are lucky to live in a place where we have good water quality and the water is clean. While the water from the Genesee watershed is genuinely good quality, there have been problems with lead founding in buildings in Pittsford Central School District.
There was a situation in Flint, Michigan that inspired a lot of school districts, including Pittsford, to test for lead.
Flint, Michigan recently had a water crisis. Their water supply became contaminated with lead. It all started when Flint switched its water source to one that was more acidic, which made the solder in the pipes dissolve. Solder in old pipes tends to have lead in it. The water was tested for lead and found in high concentrations above a level that was safe to drink. Children had to get tested for lead exposure because of the crisis. Many had high levels in their blood. Flint can fix this by replacing the pipes with copper, but that is very expensive.
School districts in our area were tested for lead after they found out about Flint. The lead limit for drinking water in schools in New York State is 15 parts per billion. Brighton had 36 outlets with high levels of lead. Rush Henrietta had 47 outlets with high levels of lead. Fairport had 77 outlets with high levels of lead, and East Rochester had 31 outlets with high levels of lead.
Like Flint, the lead in Pittsford water was from dissolving solder in pipes, but it's on a much lower scale, only 15 to 20 ppbs. Sutherland High School had 6 sinks with lead. Mendon Center Elementary had 9 sinks with lead. Mendon High School had 20 sinks with lead. Jefferson Road Elementary had 12 sinks with lead.
The district is putting filters in and closing down contaminated sinks. They are also testing for lead a lot lately to see if the lead levels are going down. The first test was done in March 2016. The places with high lead levels were retested in November 2016. Sources that continue to have high levels of lead above 15 parts per billion are taken offline and cannot be used.
The outcome was the district fixed lots of problem areas. The district changed the pipes from galvanized to plastic or copper pipes. If pipes can't be replaced, then a filter can be used.
The PCSD consists of 9 schools and 3 additional buildings for transportation and storage. All of those buildings are required to undergo lead testing to keep staff and students safe. The school district reports that a voluntary testing protocol was conducted by an independent third-party environmental consulting firm that tested each school's drinking and service water for lead. Samples were taken from high-priority areas, as outlined by the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA. The EPA defines high-priority areas as all drinking fountains, kitchens, and locations designated for frequent drinking water. Additionally, random samples of low-frequency areas were tested.
The health and safety of students and staff is the Pittsford Central School District's first priority. The district has confidence in the water supplied for its buildings by the Monroe County Water Authority. While water testing is not required for schools that receive water from a public water system, this testing was initiated out of an abundance of caution. The Pittsford School District started testing regularly after the Flint, Michigan incident with its lead-polluted water. New York has since passed a law requiring schools to test for lead quite regularly.
The raw data returned from the independent lab used by Pittsford Lab included 228 water samples. Of those tested, 20 showed lead levels above the EPA's 15 parts per billion, or ppb, threshold for schools. The general public threshold is 20 ppb. The New York State Department of Health and Monroe County Department of Public Health report that the amount of lead found in homes and school taps do not contain a significant source of lead.
The Monroe County Water Authority regularly tests and reports water quality results. However, some old devices and solder fittings installed inside the buildings that may have contained lead can slowly permeate into a building's water supply system. This district did in fact find certain pipes that were galvanized and causing problems for the district.
The district will continue to work within the EPA's testing guidelines as lead-free pipes are replacing the ones that are causing problems. In the meantime, signs are posted on sinks, drinking fountains, and water taps until repairs and follow-up testing can be completed at each location. After 900 tests have been performed, only 14 locations still cannot be used because follow-up testing has not begun yet.
The citizens of Flint, Michigan had to deal with dangerous levels of lead in their water supply. Gradually, pipes are being replaced there so that they have safe lead-free water. They are replacing lead pipes with copper pipes or plastic pipes, starting with the highest risk households.
In Pittsford, the district did testing to see if there was lead in the water. Lead testing was done first in 2016. It will be done every 5 years from now on. There are some filters in pipes that help purify the water, and they are replaced every 6 months. We could do the testing more often so we know that our water is clean. The Pittsford 2016 test results found high levels of lead in many locations in many district buildings. These sinks and water fountains were immediately shut down until the problem could be fixed. To do that, PCSD is removing galvanized pipes that tend to rust and replacing them with plastic and copper. Copper requires soldering, which can be the cause of lead contamination under some circumstances, so lead-free solder has to be used.
Sinks and water fountains that were found to have lead were fixed. Testing was repeated in November 2016. Some places still are above 15 parts per billion, which is the drinking water standard for schools. These sources have been taken offline and cannot be used for drinking water until they are retested.
As our future goals, we recommend that 1. We should do the testing more often to make sure lead has not reappeared. 2. We should improve by continuing to replace bad pipes with plastic or copper, which are both safer and will last longer so the water stays lead-free. 3. Check with the local government to make sure they are not switching the water supply, like what happened in Flint. A higher cost for safer water is not a bad thing.